Welcome back to Movies Explained, where we break down all of your favorite movies. Today we are going to review a romance comedy movie called Just Friends. So without further ado, let's begin. Fat as a whale high school loser, Chris Brander is head over heels for his best friend and classmate Jaime Palomino. Before their graduation party, he dreamily dotted his feeling down for Jaime in her yearbook and aimed to express his feeling for her that night. At the graduation party, when Chris is trying to confess his feeling, Jaime's ex-boyfriend Tim comes into the room and interrupts them. As he leaves, Chris hands Jaime over her yearbook so that she can read his confession for her. As she started reading it, Chris realizes that this is not her yearbook. It must have got swapped with her ex's yearbook. Chris sprints towards Tim to get the yearbook, but sadly it was too late. He sees that Tim is reading his confession in front of the crowd while making fun of him. While following Chris, Jaime listens to this confession. Chris runs outside out of embarrassment and Jaime follows him, appreciating what he has wrote for her, which momentarily gave Chris a ray of hope, but soon she friend-zones him. Everyone started booing him. He skedaddles from the party while shouting that they all should remember his name. Soon he will become somebody and show them all. Fast forward in future, he is now transformed into this shallow slim womanizer who now lives in Los Angeles. He works as an executive in the music industry. One day he visits his boss, who demands that he needs to sign up Samantha James, the emerging pop singer who is a self-obsessed crazy dumb blondie. We also learn that Chris have hooked up with her before, and he isn't happy to meet this demented woman again. But he can't escape this situation because he will get fired if he doesn't sign her up. When he goes to meet her in her studio, she asks him to fly to Paris with her, where they will work and spend some romantic time together. During their flight, Samantha heats her food and ends up setting the plane on fire. They have to make an emergency landing in New Jersey, which is Chris's hometown. Chris is not happy about the situation because they can't fly until the next day. He takes Samantha to his parents' house, where his mother, with surprised teary eyes, is happy to see her son at her doorstep after 10 years. Ever since he got rejected by Jaime, he never came back to New Jersey, and it's his first time revisiting his home in a while. He enters his room and all the past memories come back to him. Seeing the wall filled with pictures of him with Jaime from the past, he starts getting those pictures off the wall as he remembers the harsh memories of rejection. He then goes downstairs to have a crazy conversation between his mom, his brother Mike, Samantha, and himself. To escape the situation, he goes to a bar with Samantha. In the bar, he meets his other old best friends and classmates Clark and Darla. He introduces Samantha to them, and while Chris is talking to Clark and Darla, Tim appears out of nowhere looking like a complete loser. Suddenly, he notices someone familiar standing behind the bar. When he goes near the figure, that person turns out to be none other than Jaime. She works as a bartender here. They greet each other and Chris ends up asking her for a lunch date the next day. As they were leaving the restaurant, Samantha starts acting possessive and flirty with him, which he completely ignores. That night he ends up looking at his and Jaime's pictures and some letter he had wrote for her. Early in the morning he wakes up his brother Mike, who is obsessed with Samantha, and he asks him to detain Samantha for the day, so he can go on a date with Jaime. He tells Samantha that instead of going to Paris, they should stay in New Jersey because it would be good for her career to meet some of her fans there. Driving a rented Porsche, he goes to pick up Jaime and tries to impress her with it. During the date, Jaime asks why he left her, and if he was that mad at her. Chris acts like he has moved on and then tries to impress Jaime by talking about the bling life he is living currently. He was acting rude and weird, which Jaime notices and realizes that he has changed. When he drops her back home, he hugs and shakes her very weirdly. Afterward, he goes all crazy that he is losing all his polyboy charms with her, and that he should have gone for a kiss, not a hug. He realizes that he has put himself back in a friend zone with her. Meanwhile, Mike accidentally fires a taser at Samantha in the mall, and she ends up falling from the first floor of the mall. He gives her a Vicodin. In reaction, she ends up acting all loopy. Upon seeing this situation, Chris goes all crazy on her brother. In the middle of their fight, he gets a call from his boss asking about Samantha. He ends up lying to his boss about the situation and tells him that she is fine and having fun. After handling the whole situation with his boss, Chris calls Jaime again to say sorry for earlier, and he is stuck in New Jersey for another day as he can't get any flight. He asks Jaime if she would like to go ice skating, and she agrees to it. Over the years, Chris has got really good at ice skating, and he wants to impress Jaime with this improvement. But the next day during ice skating, he fails miserably in his mission. He is not able to skate due to broken rented roller skates. He ends up being taken away by an ambulance to the hospital because he injures himself while playing ice hockey with the kids to impress Jaime. With the ambulance comes a paramedic, who was their old classmate Dusty Dinkelman, who used to be in love with Jaime. In the ambulance, they exchange their numbers and flirt slightly while Chris is foaming in anger tied to the ambulance bed looking at both of them. Later, Chris goes to Clark for a dental appointment and rants about Dusty, where he gets to know that Dusty is the successful sentimental guy that ladies love. Chris comes to a conclusion of his own that Jaime likes sentimental guys, and decides that he just needs to be like the old Chris from 10 years ago. On the other hand, Samantha is still recovering and is stuck in a room at Chris's house. Mike is trying to entertain her, but she still feels bored. She starts telling him how she haven't had sex with someone in a very long time and she is horny. She starts sweet talking with Mike and make him massage her back. While he was giving her a massage, Chris came into the room and inquired that what is going on. In answer, Samantha inquired that where he was, leaving her all alone. Chris goes on with his new plan of acting like a sentimental guy. He calls Jaime and asks her if she will go with him on a movie date to watch The Notebook, and she agrees to it. After the phone call, Chris goes to Samantha's room, who is standing ready to go to Paris. Seeing this, Chris gets panicked because he still has to convince Jaime to be his girlfriend, and he can't just leave the town right now. He forces Samantha that she is an artist who should perform in front of public and ends up sending her to a coffee shop with Mike where she should sing. After sending Samantha, Chris gets onto his plans of changing his personality and dresses like old geeky Chris with retainers in mouth to impress Jaime. As the ring bells, he runs towards to open it as he is eagerly waiting for Jaime. Jaime is standing on the other side of the door with a little surprise for him in the form of Dusty. She tells him that he will be joining them too. Chris gets very frustrated to this surprise of hers, but doesn't show it. Later at the theater, Chris cringes looking at the cheeky romance in the movie and his company crying because of it. Dusty comes to drop Chris home, where he tells him how big of an environmentalist he is and how he volunteers at hospital, leaving Jaime in awe. Jaime comes to Chris's home for hot cocoa after movie, and they end up watching their old videos together, which take them down to the memory lane about the good times they have spent together, and how goofy they were with each other. Chris drives Jaime to her home while listening to the mixtape Jaime had made for Chris back then. This night brings so many memories back that they both have forgotten long ago. On the other hand, Mike takes Samantha to a metal shop instead of the coffee shop to sing. The crowds turn out to be not very supportive of her. Instead, they say crude sexual comments to her while throwing things at her. This makes her uncomfortable. Suddenly, she snaps at one of the guys from the audience and starts hitting him. Later on the Christmas morning, Chris takes a letter with him to Jaime's house to express his feeling to her. In this letter from 10 years ago, he had wrote 100 reasons why Jaime is the best. When he arrives, he sees Dusty already playing guitar singing a song for Jaime. This breaks Chris's heart and he leaves the room, while putting the letter down on the table beside him. Clark comes to ask Chris what he is doing sitting on the stairs alone when Jaime is outside. Chris confesses to Clark that he feels like he can't win over Jaime when Dusty is impressing her by showing how good of a man he is. Clark boosts up Chris's confidence and makes him go to Jaime to confess. Meanwhile, Samantha lures Mike by kissing and seducing him, and makes him tell her where Chris is. Mike tells him that he is visiting his high school sweetheart Jaime. After learning this, she drives like a lunatic and ends up crashing into Jaime's house fence and ruining all the Christmas decorations. Upon Samantha's arrival, Chris looks worried. After getting out of the car, she fights with Jaime, calls her a whore, and then leaves after creating a scene. Later, Chris is lying on the bed listening to Samantha's apology texts when Jaime comes to his room with the letter he has left earlier in her house. They talk all night and things start to get better in between them. Jaime starts showing interest in Chris by staying the night at his place with him. She wears his white shirt, trying to indicate that she wants to have sex with him. Chris gets nervous, although he is big playboy, but in front of her he is a sissy. He keeps telling himself to make a move, while Jaime is lying beside him mentally prepared, but they just end up simply sleeping that night. Next morning, Jaime goes to Darla while Chris goes to Clark to rant about last night. Jaime thinks that even after she have put herself out there by wearing his shirt and going to his bed and giving him all the signs, he doesn't want to start something with her because of all the pretty LA girl that has set a high mark for her, and he is not interested in her anymore. She sadly concludes that he doesn't want her anymore. Meanwhile, Chris is going crazy that he couldn't muster up the courage to make a move at her. At the end of his conversation, he concludes that this is just a complicated high school drama situation for him, and he decides that he needs to go back to LA. Walking out of Clark's office in the hospital, he saw Dusty making out with a nurse and feels disgusted of it. Upon seeing Chris and Clark, Dusty ends his makeout session and comes to meet them while smirking. With a hint of anger, Chris inquires that who was this girl and what about him flirting with Jaime. Dusty replies that he is taking his sweet revenge from Jaime, for friend-zoning him all those school years. He then walks away. While Clark is on the way to drop Chris to the airport, Chris takes the control of the steering wheel out of nowhere and turns the car into the opposite direction of airport. Clark inquires shockingly of his action and Chris replies that he can't leave Jaime into Dusty's evil hands. Chris goes to Jaime's house to meet her but instead runs into her angry father. Her dad seems to be furious about the drama Samantha and Chris created earlier at Christmas. Chris apologizes for Christmas drama and asks that where is his daughter. He tells him that she has gone to a children's Christmas concert with Dusty. Chris goes there to find Dusty acting all sweet and singing for children and Jaime. He takes Jaime in the corner and tells her that how Dusty is a big Jersey player who is trying to get into her pants to take his revenge for ignoring him in the past. Afterwards, he gets into a fight with Dusty. Sadly, Jaime takes Dusty's side and asks Chris to leave. Disappointedly, Chris goes back to his house and takes his stuff to leave the town, but he ends up going to the bar where Jaime works to apologizing to her. She is there with Dusty. When Chris tries to explain things to Jaime that Dusty is not what he looks like and he is sorry for earlier, she tells him to leave and that he is just a friend. Listening to this, Dusty asks Jaime that he wanted to talk to her about their relationship, and he finally plays his move to be her boyfriend, to which Jaime sweetly refuses. Listening to the refusal, Dusty started acting crazily. At that point, the truth about Dusty came out. Chris teased Jaime about it and they ended up fighting more and he was thrown out of the bar. Next day, he went back to LA only to find Samantha in his house who was trying to get him back. When she is refused, she tossed his private parts. This forces Chris to once again leave for New Jersey to meet Jaime. As he reaches Jaime's house to meet her, she shuts the door on his face. He started saying sorry for what he have done in the past and for being a bad friend, and that he is afraid of only being friends with her because he will always want more from her. Jaime opens the door and asks her why he is even there, to which he replies that he wants to marry her and start a family with her. This confession of love melts Jaime's heart and she finally decides to accept Chris as her partner. The movie ends with both of them kissing each other passionately. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe for more great videos. We will see you in the next one.